their relatives who went into the Gulag, they don't know where they're buried, they don't know when they died. And the book makes the point that even, in the dark old days of Sparta versus Athens wars, they honoured the dead. It was a religious duty that, if you read Homer, when Priam comes to Achilles and begs for his son Hector's body, stop all the fighting, give him Hector's body, and there's a funeral ceremony, because these warriors respected warriorship, but that also means respecting the dead, because they had metaphysics and ethics. Whereas in Soviet Russia, and you don't have either ethics or metaphysics, so the nameless become the dead. And this creates psychological havoc with people's ability to grieve and remember. And so what this book points out is that this whole movement started in Russia in the 80s and 90s, a thing called Memorial, which tried to track, it did what Yad Vashem has done for the Holocaust in Israel. They tried to track how many people had died, what were their names, where are they buried, when did they die. And they started doing work, just a few dozen people. And Putin shut it all down. So the reign of terror that Putin is doing it starts with the erasure of memory. You're not allowed to find that out, because that exposes the crimes of Stalin, who is Putin's hero. And it was the same in Ukraine. In Ukraine, Stalin's massacres, called the Holodomor, led to this mass starvation of up to more than 3 million people, engineered deliberately. Read, Anne Applebaum and people about it. And they were just starting to get the archives to prove it, to find the mass graves and so on. And that's one of the reasons Putin's launched his war against Ukraine. He wants to erase the Ukrainian capacity for memory from the map. He wants to say to these people, no, the Holodomor never happened. It's all a capitalist conspiracy against the motherland. So that's what's at stake here in the world now. I still honour aspects of what Marx did, as my mother said, as a methodology for studying history, even though it's incomplete and insufficient and needs ethics and metaphysics adding, which is what I'm trying to do. But I don't honour and respect what Stalin and Lenin and Mao did to it subsequently, and I see the seeds of what they did in the intellectual mistakes that Marx made. I'd rather... So, can one marry these two up? Well, ironically and tragically, what Islam has, which is a metaphysics, a faith, and an ethics which comes from it, is exactly what Marxism needs. So there have been some great Islamic Marxists in India and the Middle East, socialists. I've met people in Palestine who call themselves Marxist or whatever. These people are trying to find a way to put metaphysics and ethics into Marxism and make it do something good, And I wish them good luck with that. And hopefully my works can help, my commentary on the Quran and my commentary on Das Kapital. I'm just trying to create... It's about remembering. Because like Plato, I think the good is within us all, but we have to remember it. Yes. Well, any questions or comments? Those are those two.
No, thank you very much.
They're quite interesting, aren't
yes.
they?
Especially your conclusion.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, well look, we won't do a tarot today. I'm going to finish with a little quote from Plato and a poem. Tell me a key word in philosophy, and we'll see what Plato has to say about it.
Mistake?
Well, can I go with politics? Because you said earlier
Yes.
about politics. I just want to just quote a couple of lines Plato said about it. Okay.
Yeah, with democracy is not...
Well, he he has some complex
Some
thoughts
big
about
risk.
politics. Yeah. Anyway, here's one quote. There seems to be a difficulty in so ordering acts and words in politics that there should be no dispute about them. That's in the Laws, which was his last great work. And here's another. I wonder why most of the great men of the past, Pittacus, Bias, Thales and Miletus, and Anaxagoras, did not take an active part in politics. There is sometimes a difficulty in apprehending that the true art of politics is concerned not with private, but with public good. For public good binds together states, but private only distracts them. Nor do men always see that the gain is greater, both to the individual and the state, when the state, and not the individual, is first considered. And then from the Apology, if I had engaged in politics, I should have perished long ago and done no good either to you or to myself. I think that, the point of philosophers like Plato and that tradition is that we don't really do party politics by definition because we can see the wholeness of things, whereas politics is all about fighting and party. I think what he was looking for was the universal good, which is why he founded the academy. Anyway, that's just a few quotes there. And then I'll finish with a poem, because we're not doing a tarot of the gods. I think we've done enough detail. Wow. Okay, well this is a nice poem. I wrote it in Denmark in 1995. I attended something called the World Social Summit, which was a UN conference. It was one of the most important political events I've ever attended. Heads of state were there from 100 and more countries, speaking in a great hall in the middle of Copenhagen, which was an old naval base they'd given to the UN for the week. And I heard Castro speaking, I heard Chancellor Kohl, heads of state of that level, all talking about how we can develop the world socially. The social summit was dreamed up by a Chilean intellectual, left-wing chap, who Chile put forward to the UN, we shall have a social summit. And the idea was to tackle three problems facing the planet. Unemployment, which is a vast problem around the world, poverty, which is a vast problem, and social conflict, racism, ethnicity, all that stuff. And it's a very ambitious summit. Can you imagine, trying to tackle and solve global unemployment, global poverty, and global social conflict. And so then the UN, because it had, the street cred, it got all these world leaders to discuss this. And I was, as an NGO leader running my Peace Institute, because peace is connected to this, sitting taking notes at the back. We had a bit of the back of the hall, and there were people from other NGOs there, like Amnesty and the Red Cross and whatever. And then there was a huge other hall where there were all these tables of NGO groups with their publicity and what they're all doing to solve these problems, human rights and so on. It was fascinating. And I really learned a lot. And I wrote a poem It's called the Invocation for the Social Summit. Goddess of mercy and wisdom, honour us here with your presence. We are poor, broken, our hands and mouths sore. We have drifted away into dark corners, fallen over the flat earth's edge. Give us your powers of memory, O Muses, to sing out these sufferings, and above all to launch hope bravely on the sea of freedom. Let the dove of peace, returning again and again, smiling at last anew, having seen the rainbow. We are here for the poor and the weak, the unemployed, the wronged ones, unsaying, ignored. And each heart here is linked, each beat to each, between us. The air of love shines. Remember, we grow out of each other's yearnings. Cell by cell, we journey forward, inching towards a world fit for being human. (1995) Invocation for the Social Summit.
Yeah, that's easy in a family, but in the global village, we go from the small village to the global village. It's it's messy.
It's a challenge.
It's messy, of course.
Yeah. Well, we can do our bit.
Yes.
Inching forwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Merci. On va finir.